Environmental scan is a process of gathering, analyzing, and dispensing information for tactical or strategic purposes. The environmental scanning process entails obtaining both factual and subjective information on the business environments in which a company is operating or considering entering. Environmental scanning, a term coined in the mid-1960s by Francis Aguilar, a Harvard business professor, to describe the actions of watching and collecting information on a company's rivals and the overall market. Your organization is going through a 5-phase process, and the third phase is that of selecting your organizational strategy for your organization. Select and or renew your 8 KPI objectives that align with your vision and organizational strategy and objectives. Once selected, you will sort these and prioritize the data that was collected and filtered through a SWOT process. Breakthrough strategy comes from scanning the external environment and incorporating these trends into potential strategies that can elevate an organization's potential. We use a discovery phase to bring external trends to your organization while looking at internal data with a fresh set of eyes. With this information in hand, participants will attend 3 separate workshops where the stakeholders will build a strategy to action plan. These workshops are best done over several weeks, with each workshop building on the team's learning as well as allowing time to create new possibilities. The process delivers an action-oriented, measurable plan that has buy-in from the stakeholders involved. The process we use is shown above. The purpose of the Enviro scan is to provide strategic intelligence by evaluating potentially significant environmental changes. It conveys both current environmental status and how the changing trends will affect your organization. It alerts planners to trends that are converging, diverging, interacting, accelerating, or decelerating. The ideal end state would be that it allows for adaptive planning before these trends occur fully within your organization. Enviro scans accomplish a great deal for organizations. Here are some of the benefits. Capitalizing on early opportunities, early signal of impending problems, sensitizes to changing needs of customers, base of objective qualitative information, intellectual stimulation to decision making, improves the image with public by showing sensitivity and responsiveness to environment, broad-based education for executives. Where does the environmental scan fit in the entire planning process? Let's take a look. So you have the environmental scan, and that's based upon 2 categories. The first being the external factors. Those are the areas where we've done surveying of customers, vendors, all the external stakeholders of the organization. We've collected that data and we're looking for trends. Then we have the internal factors. So it's vision, mission, cultural climate, the values of the organization, and how are those playing out. From that, we're going to take a look at those things that are benefiting us and those things that deter from us. And so first, we're going to look at the strengths. What are the strengths both on the external factors and the internal factors? Then we're going to look at the weaknesses. Then the opportunities, which are all external, and the threats. From there, we're going to do a gap analysis. And the gap analysis answers this question. Given where we presently are, where should we be going? Once we've determined that, we start the strategic planning. And the strategic planning are answering these 2 questions. How do we get there? And when will we get there? Now let's get deeper into it and dive deep into how we convert this data from the Enviro scan to the SWOT. We're going to take the Enviro scan and we're going to look at the two aspects, one being the external factors. And the external factors are looking at both opportunities and threats. We look at the environment, the competitive analysis, 5 forces, evaluating threats, and assessing opportunities. Then we go into the internal factors. There we're looking at strengths and weaknesses around these areas in which we gather data. Internal analysis, the Baldrige process, value proposition, value innovation, revenue assessment, cost assessment, customer interface, infrastructure assessment, and process performance. From those, we are going to bring them into the SWOT. So on the internal factors, we're going to be looking at the strengths and the weaknesses, and for the external factors, we're going to look at opportunities and threats. SWOT analysis is a strategic planning method used to evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It involves specifying the objective of the business venture or project and identifying the internal and external factors that are favorable or unfavorable to achieve that objective. A SWOT analysis must first start with defining the desired end state, vision, or objective. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break it down, and the strengths are the characteristics of the business or team that gives it an advantage over others in the industry. The weaknesses are characteristics that place the firm at a disadvantage relative to others. This is what a SWOT model looks like. So now let's take a look at just the internal. At the internal, we're looking at the strengths and weaknesses, what is helpful and what is harmful. And what we do is we look at customer feedback and employee feedback. And then we're looking at it in terms of capability, resources, and processes. And so as you begin to evaluate the data that came in through the surveys, those are the 3 areas in which you're going to do it. The external part of the SWOT, again, has to do with what is helpful and harmful, the opportunities and the threats. And here, the secondary data will be environmental data, industry data, and competitive data. The primary data will be customer information. And so what we're going to do is we're going to accumulate as much of this as we can, and we're going to feed this in through those surveys into opportunities and threats and look at what's helpful and harmful. So that's all well and good, but what's the whole goal of this? The goal is to learn how to capitalize on those strengths that you have as an organization, to shore up those weaknesses. So if we have an area that we're not maximizing our effectiveness, then we need to shore that up. And it won't surprise you that the opportunities are where we want to invest. Those things where we see the highest potential, that's where we want to move our time, money, and resources. And then we want to identify the threats that face the organization. Now that we've seen those elements of the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, and we understand where they come from, now let's explore how we start building strategy into the formula. And this happens by looking at the relationships of these categories. So the first one we're going to look at is strength and opportunities. With strength and opportunities, we want to match the strength with the opportunity, which totally maximizes the opportunity and builds on the strengths. So if you think about it, it's strength plus opportunities equals a strategic alternative. So let's take a look at another relationship. This relationship is between strengths and weaknesses. What we want to do is we want to match the strengths with weaknesses to find a place where the strengths can offset a weakness. So think of it this way: strength plus weakness is a strategic alternative. So next we're going to explore the relationship between opportunity and threats. Here we want to match the opportunities with threats to find a place where the opportunities can offset a threat.
So opportunity plus threat equals strategic alternative.
Creating a list of the ideas within each of the boxes. So we're going to understand what the strengths are and build those. We're going to understand the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats to our organization by going through all of this rich data. Then we're going to sort those, each one of them, in priority ranking. So by taking our entire knowledge base and using our survey system, we are going to priority rank each of these groupings. Once we do that, then we're going to generate strategic alternatives based upon what we learn are the most important things to our organization. Once we do that and have generated those strategic alternatives, we're going to priority rank those. Once we priority ranked them, we're also going to look at it in the balanced strategic alternatives. What that is going back to the balanced scorecard approach, where we're both looking at financial, market growth, process, and people and learning. And we want to make sure that we are connecting these strategies back to our objectives that are built around those 4 categories. From the SWOT analysis, you will narrow your focus through the process of looking for strategies that minimize weaknesses and threats and accentuate the strengths and opportunities and the combination of the sets. You will then select 2 strategies in each of the 4 balanced scorecard categories of financial, market growth, process, and people and learning that align with the vision, mission, and objectives.
Planning the breakout session will be as follows. We will break out into our SWOT teams. We will sort through the data. We will priority rank it. We will come up with our strategic alternatives. And then we will have discussions around those strategic alternatives so that we know that we're putting the organization on the right direction. Now is the time to choose the most important elements from your Enviro scan through your SWOT analysis. Let's get going.